Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this video I want to talk about one thing that started to bother me in Raid, because I really enjoy playing Raid, so I want to do a lot of stuff in Raid, and there is so much to do. Whether there's chases or bosses and areas and zones and events, and there's just so much, but is it all too much? First, thank you Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and for giving me this wonderful promo link down below in the description there in the QR code. A new account with Tagoar, Venomage, Uugo, Deacon Armstrong, a great start to Raid. And Raid is a really fun game. However, once you really get into Raid and you start doing all sorts of things in Raid, then they are going to take a lot of time. For example, just thinking about just quickly running through your daily tasks, then you do Demon Lord, you can do it in quick battle, maybe it takes just 5 minutes. Then you do Hydra, well, you do Hydra once a week, but it can take from 7 minutes if you run it in quick battles to 120 minutes if you really manual it. So that's 1 to 70 minutes per day. You do Chimera. Chimera cannot be quick battled, so it easily takes you 2 hours a week. That would be 17 minutes on average per day. You do Doom Tower, so you do 10 fights and then also the silver keys. So that's actually 20 to even 30, 40 minutes per day, depending on how fast your team is. And that's even when you have the stuff on farm. Curse City, you do 8 fights per day. That can also easily take 20 minutes if some of those fights are a little bit longer, and some of those are pretty long. Green Forest, you have 30 keys per day, but you have, of course, not many of those will be fights necessarily. But it's easy to spend 20 minutes on Grim Forest, sometimes even 40-50 minutes on Grim Forest. Arena, you can spend almost unlimited time in Arena. There's Classic Arena, there's Tag Team Arena, then there's even Live Arena. So easily 40 minutes per day, even if you don't do Live Arena. So you can easily spend an hour or two just doing Arena per day. Faction Wars, well, Faction Wars, you can fight multiple battles and easily takes 20 minutes. There's no quick battle in Faction Wars either. Then you want to spend all of your daily energy, because all of that, none of that actually spends any energy yet, because all of those use Doom Towers, use their own keys, and Curse City and Grim Forest and Arena use its own keys. So spending your daily energy, so that can be as quick as 20 minutes. You just do some quick campaign battles. Maybe you can be even faster if you have like a couple of second event dungeon level 3 or some kind of spider farming team or something going on. But also, if it's a little bit of a longer fight, then it can take hours just to spend your daily energy. And then just doing your market and navigating the menus, closing all the pop-ups too, yeah, I know. Then when you do all of this, then you easily spend another 15 minutes doing that. So you end up spending easily at least 3 hours per day just running through simple tasks as fast as you can. And if some of these take a little bit longer, if you do any testing, experimentation, planning, champion gear maintenance, then that easily adds hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So basically, you can currently play Raid all day. It's totally possible. And even if you don't want to play all day and you just want to do everything that advances your account every day, like the fastest way you can do that, then that is still several hours. The time requirement in Raid, it goes up every year as Plarium adds new content, as they added Curse City and they added Chimera and they added Grim Forest, because all content in Raid, it's both repeatable, so you can keep doing that periodically, either daily or weekly, but it's always can be done again, and it's also always relevant, because even the campaign, which is sort of like go through once, but you do return to campaign stages for daily quests, for monthly quests, and it's good XP farming location too. You can of course do XP farming also while you're doing dungeons once you can carry your team through high level dungeons. But campaign is still a viable option for XP farming always. And new content is added, the time requirement increases because nothing ever becomes obsolete. Everything's repeatable, everything's always relevant, the rewards from everything are always something that you can use in your account. And this is becoming a problem for Raid. In other games, the Raid is quite unique. I can't really think of any other game that works exactly the same way, that all the content is repeatable and always relevant. Usually you grow out of content and it becomes irrelevant. So sometimes the content is no longer available to you at all, so you can't even access it. Sometimes the rewards from that content become meaningless to you, so you just don't need to do it. You can do it if you want to, but you don't need to because that rewards don't benefit you in any way. So some might argue that this means that the content is wasted. A good example would be World of Warcraft, I suppose, a long-running MMO, so decades and decades of material, and much of that is not used. So okay, is all of that content then just useless? But it also directs player attention to new things, and it keeps the game fresh, because you get to do new things instead of old things, and things you do change. So planned obsolescence, really, that you know that the content is not going to always be relevant, always be current, and you're fine with it, is something that practically every other game does, but Raid does not do that. And doing that would actually open up some interesting opportunities, because like, well, if you take the World of Warcraft example again, there's classic World of Warcraft, there are various remixes in World of Warcraft, so they allow players to play the game as it was back in the day, or they bring the game old content in a little bit changed shapes and make it relevant again for an event, periodically, for a limited time. So then there's this nostalgia, and also it's useful, it's actually useful. So they get people to do old stuff again, and it feels like new because it was out of circulation for a while. And what does this mean for Raid? Well, Raid would have options like some rewards could become obsolete, so then people wouldn't need to do that content anymore. But the way the resources are designed for this game makes that a bit difficult. Or Raid could also retire some of the content. They could actually, like in Destiny's Vault system, they could actually take some content and make it inaccessible, remove it from the game, and then they could bring it back sometimes, and then it would feel newer again. Maybe even rework it a little bit and then bring it back. So Raid would have these sorts of options that they could use, because they have chosen a pretty unique path in making all content always relevant. But that also means that it's hard for players to keep up, and also there's no clear cue on what is the most relevant thing, what should you do. If you can't have the time to do everything in the game doesn't direct you on, okay, well, this is more important, do this, and you don't have to do that. So players have to figure that out themselves. And then there's also this psychological effect where you feel like, okay, I'm not doing what I really should, because content in the game is not prioritized. Everything is the same priority, basically. So it's not like you could decide, hey, I do this high priority stuff, unless you just figure it out in your own head that this is high priority stuff and this is important and that one is not. But you have to make that choice. The game doesn't direct you in any way to do that. And yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. Just trying to do everything in Raid can be draining, and Raid doesn't really help you that much to play in a more casual way. Even though it totally is possible to play Raid in a more casual way, like you could allow your energy even to go over the limit, and you will then miss out on hundreds of energy every day from natural regeneration. But on the other hand, if you really don't have that much time to play and you do some dailies and you get some energy, and I pretty quickly actually on one of my accounts, for example, got like 2000 energy. Just whoosh, and the account was at 2000 energy when I didn't have time to do much things. So then when actually an event started and I had all that energy already, then I was able to go in on that event. Technically, I'm losing hundreds of energy. I'm losing a lot of progress. But in some ways, that's also a more satisfying way to play, because I was making the most of my time. And then when I had interesting thing to do, then I had the resources to do that. But Raid doesn't really direct you into that kind of gameplay, and that can be taxing, and that can cause a bit of a burnout for the game as well. So I think Raid would have some things that they could do to help casual players orient themselves better in a less demanding way. And they would also have some opportunities with content obsolescence in rotating content in and out and playing with nostalgia a little bit more. So that's something I hope Raid would do in the future. And what do you think? Do you think Raid should retire some content? And if they should, then what content? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.